Welcome to Do Not Talk. I am Charlie Simons, talking about things you're not supposed to talk about, politics and religion, talking to the people you're not supposed to talk to, talk about things I'm not supposed to talk about. That's what I do. And my own party telling me not to talk about this and not talk about that. No, we're going to, just wait until we make a decision for you. Are you high? Oh, you're in California. You probably are. Urson Russell is my guest today. Urson, unusual first name, Urson. Urson, you can't forget it now. Urson Russell is going to be talking about election integrity, and he's now attained hero status with me because anybody who's never run for office before and decides that's it, I've had enough, I got to do something, and is going for it. Nothing's going to change until we get good people running for office. So you're going to want to meet this guy and you're going to hear what he has to say. I, by the way, want to ask you a couple quick favors. First, if you could hit the like button right now. That helps with the whole algorithm thing. And if you can leave a comment down below. It's got to be 5 words or more, though, or 6 words or more. Because 5 words or less, they count it as a bot. It's just no winning with these people. And if you could share this show, you really would help me tremendously because Facebook deleted all of my pages last summer and Instagram as well, which is owned by Facebook, because I did a little thing about Pride Month that seemed to have upset a few people at Meta, and they deleted me from the platform completely. So share these shows. You really help that way too, because 40,000 people suddenly gone. Used to be able to let them know I had a new show out. But that's on me for putting all my eggs in the Meta basket. I need to get into Telegram and what's the other one? The Substack. Substack I've heard some great things about. So I'm exploring all that and figuring out how to do it. So I do it right the first time instead of messing it up and trying to do it over and over again. Kind of my thing. And also my other favor I want to ask you is to go to my website and buy some of my merchandise like this one. Hey, Urson, you need one of these. Let's talk about politics and religion. There you go. You can get that. You can get all kinds of hats, shirts, things, and you'll help. They split the profits with me. So if you complain about paying $20 for this 15-ounce big old coffee mug, just know there's a reason why it's priced that way. So they make money and I can make some too. That's how you can help the show. At charliesimons.com, right there, charliesimons.com. Click on that merch store tab. All right, commercial over. In California, we have, first of all, a jungle primary, which is with all the election fraud and cheating going on, made sure that there's a supermajority of Democrats, which what supermajority means is it doesn't matter what we do, what we say we don't want, what we vote against, doesn't matter. We're overwhelmed by numbers in all the legislature of California. And with a Republican governor, which we could have this coming November, only if you show up for the primary election, though, June 2nd, we're just a little over a month away. June 2nd is the primary election. That's going to decide who goes to the big election in November. But we suck at showing up for that. So could we please change that? If you're not registered to vote, would you please consider it? Registertovote.ca.gov. Registertovote.ca.gov. It's easy to do there. Get registered, and then you'll always be registered. And if you're already registered, you might want to go there anyway just to check and make sure they haven't changed your party affiliation. That was a nice little trick the Secretary of State did a few years ago during the whole COVID crap. But I bring all this up because we have a huge amount of slugs, as I call them, who have sat in their little seats, their little positions of power again and again and again and again and again. You just keep winning. And there's really no reason, because they're bad. They're not good people. They're not effective people. They're merely doing what the Democrat National Committee tells them to do and how they should vote. And they're just a solid vote for the left, period, over and over and over again. So as long as they don't make waves, as long as they don't really cause any problems or controversy for the Democrat Party, they get to keep their seat. They'll make sure of it. They get rewarded for their service by getting to serve like this man. He's 81. He's fighting some kind of cancer. That's at last report. His hair has definitely dyed, and his name is John Garamendi, and he's a congressman out of the San Francisco Bay Area, in the East Bay, they call it. He's been in office since the 80s. And now that this coming November, there's an actual real challenger to his seat who's a Republican, the only Republican running in that race. Several Democrats are running against John Garamendi. That's his name. John Garamendi doesn't go on CNN. John Garamendi doesn't ask questions in committees. He just doesn't do much of anything. He's just a solid little left vote who looks good and has nice hair. So people in the San Francisco Bay Area keep electing him over and over and over for decades. Well, now that he's running and he actually has a Republican challenger, Rudy Rosselli is his name. He's a friend of mine. And I'm a delegate with the California Republican Party because of Rudy Rosselli. He asked me to be one of his delegates. Rudy is making some noise. Rudy is making some inroads, and people are paying attention because there's actually a Republican running against John Garamendi. John Garamendi, who's 81 years old. Get out. So now the Democrat Party decided to put him on some committee, and he's questioning the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, about what's going on in Iran. And Hegseth owns him. Watch this.
Secretary Hegseth, you have been lying to the American public about this war from day one. And so has the president.
Lying.
You have misled the public about why we are at war. You and the president have offered ever-changing reasons for this war. You've misled the public about the progress of the war.
You know that?
While the military has executed this war with tactical success,
You know that how?
the strategy has been an astounding incompetence. You and the president have ever-changing reasons for the war. You have misled the public about the progress of the war. While the military has executed this war with tactical success, the strategy has been an outstanding example of incompetence. This war of choice is a political and economic disaster at every level. Despite the president's promise to lower the cost of living, gas prices are up 40% and inflation is soaring. So much for lowering the cost of living. The president has got himself and America stuck in the quagmire of another war in the Middle East. He's desperately trying to extricate himself from his own mistakes. It is in America's and indeed the world's interest that he succeed.
I didn't get a chance. I didn't see a question in the statement from.
He never actually asked a question.
Hope you appreciate how reckless it is. When I said reckless, feckless, and defeatist of congressional Democrats at the beginning, that came after watching you say the same thing on CNN this morning, a quagmire. My generation served in a quagmire in Iraq and Afghanistan, years and years of nebulous missions and utopian nation building that led us to nothing. What we have right now, the way you stain the troops when you tell them 2 months in, Congressman, you should know better. Shame on you. Calling this a quagmire 2 months in. The effort, what they've undertaken, what they've succeeded, the success on the battlefield to create strategic opportunities, the courage of a president to confront a nuclear Iran, and you call it a quagmire, handing propaganda to our enemies. Shame on you for that statement. And statements like that are reckless to our troops. Don't say I support the troops on one hand, and then a 2-month mission is a quagmire. That's a false equivalation. Who are you cheering for here? Who are you pulling for? Our troops are doing incredible work. They've done incredible things for the entirety of this mission and achieved incredible battlefield successes. And you sit there and go on TV for your clickbait about quagmires. It undermines the mission. Your hatred for President Trump blinds you to the truth of the success of this mission and the historic stakes that the president is addressing, which the American people support. Iran's been at war with us for 47 years. You want to talk about a forever war? For 2 months, this president has stared them down. He's going to get a better deal than anyone ever has and ensure that Iran never has a nuclear weapon.
Yeah, so the Democrat Party decided putting John Garamendi up there so he can get a little press and they can have, some little snippets they can run in their commercials in this campaign. They didn't want to spend any money on getting Garamendi reelected at the age of 81. They didn't want to spend any money because it's always been a given. But now here comes Rudy Rosselli. And suddenly they're going to have to try and prop that fossil up and pump some air into his lungs and try and manipulate his mouth so he makes words come out haltingly at best. I'm not one to tear anybody down for their age. President Trump he's 80 now, isn't he? What a difference. What a huge difference. But the point is, because Rudy Rosselli is now challenging that slug, John Garamendi, they're trying to prop him up. They put him in front of that committee and let him ask a question so they can get some great video. And Hegseth makes him look like the goofball that he is. Something's got to be done about the elections in California. And I want you to meet a man who's been working very hard to try and wake people up to what's happening and make a difference. And that's Urson Russell. Let's get him on the show now. Ready? Hit it.
How you doing, Charlie?
I'm fantastic. I love the work that you've been doing. Tell us more about it, how you're working with election fraud and election integrity. There's so much fraud. California has written a book on it with clowns like Xavier Becerra being one of them, who so effectively made it to where we can cheat in elections and never get caught. And even if they do get caught, there's what they call it, plausible deniability. There's always somebody else's fault for this happening. And President Trump, I do believe, I pray, I hope, is about to unleash some real whirlwind of terror on these pigs who have been stealing elections from us for decades now. What's a progress report on that?
Well, California's elections, probably like a lot of states, is very centrally controlled by the Secretary of State. And what we've had over decades is really where the counties have just given up more and more of their authoritative duty to be responsible for their voter registration list, number one. So in California, routinely you get the voter registration list. There's people that are 175 years old by the date of birth, right? So from a data perspective, you just look at that and you go, the data is impure. It's incorrect. And if you start just with the voter registration lists, then how can any of the rest of it actually equate to something that's accountable or is actually a representation of real voters turning out real votes that are auditable, that are verifiable? 2020, like a lot of people, woke so many of us up with COVID, with the elections and other things. Before that, Charlie, I just checked boxes. I was just your typical voter. And a lot of that stuff in 2020 woke me up. And so I wanted to get down and find out, what is China really in control of our elections, right? Are machines flipping votes? Like, what are these real things that are going on in our elections? And I stumbled across some amazing people that we founded an organization called Patriot Force California. And through that, we really looked at, like, there was lawsuits happening, there's poll observers being trained and a lot of this stuff, but really getting into the nuts and bolts of the election systems themselves, where we could speak loudly, effectively, but also defend any of our claims, right? Because I'm not a cybersecurity expert. I do know Colonel Sean Smith from the Army that can clearly teaches me all about the cybersecurity concerns and the loopholes, but those aren't claims I can personally make. And so what I've seen in Orange County, for instance, in the 2021 recall election, a lady here in Orange County decided to register her dog just to see. She just didn't believe it was possible. Like, there's no way they're going to allow my dog to be registered to vote. Was registered, and so then she thought it was a good idea to go ahead and cast a ballot for the dog, because she thought there's just no way they're going to accept a ballot from my dog, which they did. And the reason is, in a state-only election for a first-time registered voter, there is no requirement for any sort of ID confirmation. In a federal election, there is. So in the primary for the 2022 election, she cast another ballot for the dog. And this time it got caught because there was ID requirements and so forth. So
Okay.
those types of things happening at just the basic level. We have people that haven't voted in 20 years that are still on our rolls. We'll get a ballot mailed to them, maybe in this state, maybe in another state. We have military and overseas voters, like during the 2024 election. We had, out of every 100 ballots that were cast for military and overseas citizens, 90 to 95% of them were for Kamala Harris. We never found one single batch from overseas personnel or military that favored Donald Trump. So it's a lot of that stuff that adds up where just people have a lot of questions. And the problem is when we go to our register a voter, they call them clerks in other states, but in California, we call them registers of voters. They kind of throw their hands up and say, well, we don't like this either. You need to go petition your state legislature and get them to change the laws. And to me, that's completely backwards because I'm already paying his multi six-figure salary, pension, benefits, and he's the one that should be going and representing me at this county and fighting for us.
Right.
And saying, my citizens in Orange County don't want this, and you guys need to go and write laws that actually support what our citizens want here. And why is that so important? A lot of people, it's hard for them to think about that because the majority of our population lives in such concentrated populous zones, right? So we have 58 counties. LA County is a quarter of the state. Just the one county is 25% of the population, the voting population, and so forth. We have one county, Charlie, Alpine County, that has less than 1,000 voters. It's got about 1,100 people. So how can you have one system that's going to fit for a remote, alpine, mountainous, whatever, desert community with 1,100 people and 10 million people in LA County? It's just not feasible. And that's why it's so important for the counties to have really full authority. We have 12 counties that don't even have 15,000 registered voters in any one of them. If you added up our entire 28 smallest counties in California, it's still a smaller population than LA County. So these combinations of having such a concentrated population, about 11 counties in California makes up 3/4 of the state, with counties really subduing their authority to manage the rolls, to clean the rolls, to do the things that are needed, and that's been taken over by the state. We have a system called VoteCal, and I'll just say this and pause, which is what centralizes our voter registration lists. So here's a scenario. You go into the post office and you put in a change of address to Texas. You've had enough. And through the system, the USPS sends that to the Secretary of State to be analyzed. The Secretary of State sends that to the Employment Development Department, most likely for address verification. That comes back to the Secretary of State, and then they have the ultimate authority of what to push down to the county. So the county never talks to USPS, never talks to EDD, just gets a flag on a report that says, hey, this voter status has changed. Now, we went out and knocked on almost 4,000 doors across California and proving that the state is flagging your permanent change of address to Texas as a temporary change of address.
So
And
they're
why
still
that's-
receiving ballots even out there in
Correct.
Texas for California elections.
Correct. And we see that over and over and over again. So these are the things. And lastly, I'll say our elections are very, very close. Many elections are decided by 12 votes, 50 votes, 100 votes. But we get caught up in the, oh, well, President Trump lost by 2 million votes or whatever. And so we don't think about it. The city of Compton's the closest election we've had in modern times. In 2020, there was an election that was won by 1 vote. And since it was so close, the precinct judges went through and reviewed the election outcome, and they found 4 votes cast that didn't belong in that district. And so someone won by 1 vote to ultimately lose by 3. And there's more and more stories that are very close elections across the state, and why every one of these votes, which, by the way, we have a very interesting constitution in California. when it comes to voting. So Article 2, Section 2.5 says every voter who casts a ballot in accordance with the laws of the state shall have that ballot counted. Counted is really the important word. And at least from my research, Michigan and California are the only two constitutions that say we have a right to have our ballot counted. Every other constitution says you have a right to cast your ballot. So, do you get a receipt when you go and cast your ballot in California? Do they give you a little printout or something that shows how your ballot was counted?
Nothing.
So there's so much to be done. But honestly, the way I look at things, and I know we'll kind of get into me running for office, I won't spend much, but 120 people right now, Charlie, plus the stroke of the governor's pen, right? They passed 1,600 bills in the last full legislative session. And so that amount of work and impact on our individual lives, our families, businesses, our local government that has to plan and prepare for all of these things happening. It's just not where we need to have the most decision-making happening. It really, if we want to fix elections, we've got to get really good people at the local county office. And our best register of voter in California is Clinton Curtis in Shasta County. Hands down, 100%. He gets it, and he's trying to do whatever he can within the framework of the law to increase transparency and accountability.
And that's just a little old county, comparatively speaking, to San Francisco or Los Angeles, Sodom and Gomorrah.
Sure.
Yeah, they literally put together, got it on the ballot to have an election to let the people decide if they wanted to keep the Dominion machines or not. And they said, no, we don't. So they took them out. California immediately, the filthy legislature, put together a new law, a new proposal.
AB 969.
Yep. We didn't get to vote on it.
Nope.
But they all did. And it was forcing Shasta County to use the Dominion machines, whether they wanted to or not. They forced them to put the machines back in and to keep using them.
They actually forced any county. We actually forced any county with 1,000 or more voters to use machines to tabulate elections. So think about a county with 2,700 people. There's nobody in the right mind that thinks you need tabulation machines to count 2,700 votes. It's nonsense. But it's about control. It's about centrally controlling things at the state level. And we obviously see that with homelessness, with crime, and so many other issues that we're facing right now.
Oh, yeah. California's bad. It's a bad place. It's a crooked place. It's a wonderful place, but it's run by very crooked people. But I can only blame the politicians for so long, Urson, until I start looking at the ones that are putting them into those positions. Even if there is a massive cheating and fraud in the elections, we on the right aren't even showing up. It's in the teens, those of us who show up to even vote in primary elections. And that's where elections are won and lost in California, because the primary decides who goes to the big election in November. And because of our jungle primary, another nasty little trick, we get two Democrats running for the same office again and again and again. And
or we have districts where there isn't even an opposition running. It's just there's no Republican that's put in their candidacy paperwork, and it's a Democrat that's running unopposed. Civic duty, and understanding the difference of the importance of primaries. Like all of our county races, those can all be won outright in the primary if the candidate gets 50% plus one of the votes. So your county board of supervisors, your board of education, your sheriff, your DA, your treasurer, the county controller, all those positions, you can win those outright in June. And then those candidates don't have to campaign in November. Right. Think about how much resources, people knocking doors, money being donated, all that management of elections that you can free up by really turning out and doing a good job in the June primary. There's one state race that's nonpartisan, the state superintendent of public instruction. And I've stayed out of some of the state races from like real clear endorsements or supporting things because there's too many candidates in some of them.
They
But
call it
Michael,
nonpartisan, but that's ridiculous. It absolutely is. The current one holding that position is Tony Thurmond, and he's running for governor as a Democrat. So don't tell me
right?
it's nonpartisan. Go
Oh, it's
Sonia
supposed to
Shaw.
be,
Vote Sonia
right? So
Shaw.
that's
SONJA.
it.
Sonia Shaw. She's the one for
Yes,
public education superintendent
Mama Bear.
or
Yeah,
secretary. She's awesome.
unwavering commitment to parents' rights and protecting
Yeah.
kids. It's so
Until we
refreshing.
get good people running for office, nothing will change. But General Flynn is so right. Local action equals national impact. And
It does.
we sit back and we don't even get involved. We'll vote in the big election, but we won't even vote the entire ticket. Well, I
Right.
voted for president or I voted for governor. That's all I need to do. This has
Or
got to
when the
end.
partisan races end, right?
This
Because
has
my
got to
race
end, buddy.
at state assembly, mine will have an R or D next to it, right? For the partisan race. But you get to county and city and school board and water district,
They don't.
there's no R or D. And so a lot of people skip those because they just don't know who to vote for.
Now, we all get the same voter pamphlet guide, which all the people who are running, all it takes is a little bit of time. Even the judges, I'll look them up and I'll try and find information on their records and how they voted in the past. And I will
Sure.
make my decision based on that. But I put some time into it. How many other people actually do that? Not that I'm all that great. I just figure I want to take my responsibility seriously. How many people actually do, though, do you think?
Well, that's where civic duty combined with politics, like, I love your show, right? Politics and religion, that was infused into our culture a long time ago, way before we were alive, that you don't talk about money, politics, and religion at the dinner table. It
Mm-hmm.
seems like today we've learned those are actually some of the things we should be talking about at the dinner table.
Should have never
Some of
stopped.
the correct and most important things that are going on around us. And when people say, I don't really pay attention to politics, I'll say, do you think that means it's not happening? Just because we're not paying attention to it, right? Because we don't know who's in the finals for the hockey Stanley Cup finals. Does it mean the Stanley Cup's not still happening, right? And that's really the approach we need to take. I think it was Plato or Socrates, one of them said, the consequence for not being involved in politics is you end up being ruled by your inferiors. And so whether that's morally inferior, intellectually inferior, Thomas Jefferson said, a wise and frugal government, wisdom, you need competence. If you want a good county treasurer, you probably want something with accounting background. But if you want good representation, you need people that understand the Constitution and what they're even going there to serve for. And
Going
so
back
we
to
just
John
we
Garamendi, he actually got elected to be insurance commissioner of California when he's between his little holding office and other things, and won. He's never been an insurance agent. He didn't know anything
right,
about it, but he looked good. He
right.
sounded good, and he had a D in front of his name. So I'm going to vote for him. And we didn't show up. We on the right did not show up to go, nope, that's not happening. We're going to vote for the other person. We just didn't even show up.
Sure. And I want to influence civic duty, through a movement around good government. And so how do we do that? Well, someone says, I don't really get involved in politics or so forth. Listen, would you come to one city council with me? Just one Tuesday night. You don't have to go every week. Just come to one with me. And just to be able to sit in the audience, watch how government functions, have a brief conversation afterwards. Thank you so much, for doing this. And then maybe in a few months, hey, there's another city council coming up. You want to go to another one? And so it's being suggestive when elections come up and you're picking up pizza at your favorite pizza spot. Hey, are you registered to vote? We got an election coming up. It's just small little changes that we can fold civic duty into our everyday lifestyle and not have to have it consume us. And if more of us were doing that and staying informed, so few of us would have to be doing so much like we are right now.
And if you are like Urson and me, you're conservative and you definitely lean to the right. Post how to register to vote on your social media. I don't see anybody ever doing that. I can't even get my own party to talk about getting people registered to vote. And it's so simple. I said it earlier. I'll say it again and write this down. and post it on your social media, because chances are most of your friends and family on, again, I don't have Facebook anymore, but most of yours probably think the way you do or close to it. And you're not taking a side one way or the other unless you want to. Just say, hey, you got an election coming up. This is a big one. We need you for the primary on June 2nd. Get registered right now. You only have a few days left. May 9th is the cutoff to at least vote in the primary. But just get registered. Don't even mention that. Just get registered to vote and show up at registeredtovote.ca.gov. That's it.
Well, remember in California, you can actually register up until and on election day and still cast a ballot. So we have what's called conditional voter registration, and the ballot will be put aside and will be investigated. And once approved that you were authorized to be registered, then they will count your ballot. And if not, then proceed accordingly. But yeah, that 15 days anymore, that's just to vote normal, to receive a vote by mail ballot and things. But 10 days before election day, on election day, you can still go in and register to vote and cast a ballot.
And you can get your voter guide at any post office. They always have them there, and registration forms as well. But I blame the post office for a lot of the dirty dealings too, by the way. I know people who work for the United States Postal Service who have told me that when a lot of these clowns who have their nice little cushy government jobs and their little benefits and they're flaming leftists and they love their little position of power and they pick up your ballot, let's say you're going to do by mail, which I pray you don't. I take it with you to show it's unopened to prove that you haven't voted, but yes, show up actually at the polling place, and you've got 2 weeks before the election now, polling places to go in. Doesn't have to be the day of, but go in and actually vote in person. It's easy to find out where, and your county, your area, and that's so important because my friend Kim Yater told a story just the other day at an event I was at with her about her husband and her showing up to vote, showing up in person to vote and being told, you already voted.
Right. There's a lot of those stories that came out. Really, the recall election seemed to be the pinnacle in 2021 of those stories really hitting. And, what they're told is here's a provisional ballot, fill this out and we'll look into it. And for me, I would love for them to tell me that I'd already cast a ballot. It would, be probably one of the worst days of the year for them.
Good. I want to hear how you would handle that, because the other point, the reason why I'm saying don't vote by mail, don't fill it out, put it in your mailbox and trust that it's going to get to where it's supposed to go, because these postal workers, and this is somebody who works for the post office, told me this in confidence. I would never say their name. If you have a flag flying in your yard, God forbid you have a political sign in your yard, vote Urson Russell or something like that, your ballot will never make it back to the post office. It'll get lost somewhere. Your ballot will never get it. They'll never get it. That's happening. That's why I don't trust the Postal Service anymore either. So we got to be voting in person. But so I asked,
if you have to vote in an envelope, I ask you deposit it in one of the secured drop boxes. If you absolutely have to vote using an envelope, because the people that do handle the drop boxes at least take a sworn oath of office. But the USPS postal workers are a separate agency of government. They're not. They don't have to give.
You're talking about at the election headquarters.
Yeah.
County.
Yeah. Well, they have those remote,
because not the drop boxes at the post office, and not the ones that were put up by Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook or any of those. You're talking about at the actual election, your county seat. So you might have to drive a little bit to get there, but those are the lock boxes you're talking about, right?
Correct. The ones that are handled by county staff as opposed to by United States postal workers. So because they at least have training, there's a chain of custody that goes with those collections. all of that stuff. With the USPS, there's none of those things. And we don't use secured tamper evident envelopes either, Charlie. So I can literally intercept your ballot. I can peel open the envelope. I can replace your ballot with my ballot that I want with my choices, close back up the envelope without any extra glue or tape or
And your
anything.
signature is still there on the envelope.
Correct.
They have no idea whether it's your ballot or not that you filled out inside.
Right. And no one's been caught or prosecuted. The point is this: why create a system that allows cheating so easily? Like, why go and mail everyone a ballot when you know your voter registration lists aren't clean?
Because it works for them.
Yeah. Well, the Prop 50 election was particularly bad because it was a single issue, 8.5 by 11 single page. And I exposed this to the Secretary of State and my county register a voter. Take your cell phone flashlight out. You're the postal worker. You just got 50 ballots. Take your cell phone flashlight out, put it behind the envelope, and you can see which box was marked. So, yes vote, no vote, yes vote, no vote. The no votes either don't ever make it, or you peel them open and put in your own yes vote on ballots. Because there's no correlation, right? Like, once the ballot is removed from the envelope, there's no way for the person scanning to go, wait, this isn't the right ballot. It's just a ballot, right?
Right. Because the signature that they're supposed to compare to what? I don't even have to show you ID. How do you know what my signature looks like? But they toss ballots because the signature didn't seem right. But that's the only thing that indicates who you are on the outside is that signature on the ballot. And if you forget to actually sign it, or on the envelope, if you forget to actually sign it, they won't even count it at all.
Or the law says you're supposed to get a curing letter to try and fix that and so forth. The signature verification is really bad.
It's ridiculous.
And all of these things, when I give my presentations, I make sure to always end with, even if you think your vote doesn't count, even if you think the whole system is rigged, still vote. Because without the evidence of you casting a ballot, we can't fix what's broken. And so even if you think it's rigged, even if signature verification and the dogs voting and all this stuff and the recall, we need you continue to vote and participate because it's creating evidence for us to be able to fix and affect change. So that's so important. Now, signature verification. You went and your brother, and I don't mean to disparage your brother if you even have one, but he was a little shady and he went out and he embezzled some money from his company, right? So then court, they're going to go and signature verify that these were actually his signatures on these checks. They're going to look at wet ink, meaning original signatures. They want to see the impression on the paper, how the pen went down, how it lifted up. It might take 20 minutes to 2 hours. They might get a spectrometer to look at it. There might be multiple people analyzing this. And then ultimately, through that analysis of a forensic document examiner, which takes 2,000 to 4,000 hours of on-the-job training to be able to become something that a court is going to take seriously, only then can you verify that that signature is correct. Now let's compare that to the county level. I got hired. I go through about 4 hours of training, and most of that is on how to click buttons and use the platform, the actual technology to do the process. Okay. So here you are, you've been trained for an hour to an hour and a half. You have 11 ways in which you can say that that signature matches. So if nothing matches except for the slant of the letters, you as the signature verifier can accept that as an okay signature. So we've personally watched one signature verifier do 200 signatures in about 6 minutes, which equates to 1.8 seconds per signature. And there's 4 come up on a screen, and he's just click, and it's forwarded. You can even one at a time individually. You can just do approve all 4, and he's just going through 5, 6, 7 seconds, click, next screen pops up, 5, 6 seconds, and just going through 200 of them. We challenged it. And the supervisor said there's nothing in the law that says how long, minimum that they have to take with each signature. And I'm like, I don't care what the law says. I want to know what your common sense says, how long you should even be looking at this thing to be able to verify a legal authority. Like, you're the one that's deciding this. And so if this first person decides it doesn't match, then it goes to a second independent person. If they decide it doesn't match, it goes to a third independent person. If they decide it still doesn't match, then the
Doesn't
county
match
sends
what,
you a
by the way?
letter. Their
Doesn't match what?
records, previous
You said
signatures
get
or
from
what
where?
did
Our
digital
driver's
from
license? What? Every single.
digital poll pads, previous elections. They have a lot of signatures for every election that you participate. So now here comes a letter to you that says your signature doesn't match. Fill this out. You send it back. Now another independent person looks and goes, okay, well, this new signature, well, that doesn't match the envelope either. So I'm going to reject it. It's going to go to a fifth person that reviews it and says, I agree. It still doesn't match. Goes to a sixth person, Charlie. Now that person can unilaterally decide without anybody else sitting next to them. I disagree with 5 people, and I think it does match. And I'm going to click approve the signature, and nobody else is going to look at that work or give any scrutiny. And that sixth person that has that ability is the one that I think needs to really have the most extreme oversight. Because if you have 5 people that all agree that the signature doesn't match, that's tremendous power you're putting in one person's hands.
Are each of these 6 people getting paid to do this?
$20 to $25 an hour if they're seasonal. Probably more if they're on actual county staff, full-time staff.
Wow.
And then don't forget, every ballot's got to be scanned. So your ballot comes folded. You got to pay people $20 to $25 an hour to flatten out ballots, right? So that they can actually go through the scanners and things. And then because the ballots need to be scanned, if you only put a check mark and didn't fill out the box all the way, maybe an X, a yes, a no, a star, a smiley face, they've got to duplicate those ballots, either through a digital machine or by hand. So in Orange County, we had just short of 1.42 million ballots cast in the general election 2024. We duplicated over 75,000 ballot pages simply because they couldn't scan through the scanner. So think about
Which means
that.
somebody's getting paid $25 an hour will sit there and recreate and fill in properly those bubbles that you did. And they won't cheat, and they won't let their own personal preference come into play. And even if you're voting for Chad Bianco for governor and they are in love with Karen Canned Ham Porter, they're not going to change that, you don't think? Who's watching over them doing that?
And so there is a QC process. You do get to watch it, but who has the time to sit there for 8 hours a day for 8 weeks?
And
right?
those are volunteers. The ones who do the oversight are volunteers.
Correct. So
they're not getting paid.
Even if everyone that was there was on the up and up, it's work stress and quality reduces over time of doing repeat steps, right?
Of course.
In a manufacturing line, in a coding, in whatever it is.
Where you're doing the same thing over and over and over for hours.
And so here you are. Yeah, 4 weeks you've been doing this already with all the early voting that's been coming in with the vote by mail. Election day hits, and now it's just you're flooded for 2 weeks looking at a screen and just box. It's that alone of just the mistakes that can happen just by sheer getting tired, looking at boxes all day long for 8 hours a day. So it's unnecessary, all of it. It's really unnecessary. And we've got to get back to you vote one day, vote with your neighbors, show your ID. You count your ballots with your neighbors and tally your neighborhood votes in front of all the voters before they ever leave your community. And now you have one thing to police, number one. And number two, you can explain that to any person of any age, even a 95-year-old grandmother that's never been on the internet in her whole life. The qualifications to understand that election system is she had to have played bingo once.
Uh,
That's how simple we need to make our election systems.
yeah. I used to love those seniors when I'd go to the polling place, and it'd be like at sometimes somebody's house. They'd have the garage door open in small towns, or at the fellowship hall and things like
Right.
that, at the library. And they were all volunteers, and they took their job very seriously, and they were friendly, and I love that. And if you've never experienced that, I hope you will vote in person this time. This
Yes.
election.
Yeah. It saves your county a lot of money when you vote in person. Saves all that time of processing the vote by mail ballot and handling it and flattening it and duplicating it and all that, really. And in Orange County, we're one of the few counties across the state where we actually get to scan our own ballot. So in Sacramento, you probably, go vote in person, you put it into a secured slot in a secured box, and county staff is going to go scan that later. In Orange County, we have a tabulator at every scanner tabulator at every vote center. So when I go vote in person and it said vote for one, but I check two boxes, it spits the ballot back out and goes, you've made an error, and gives me a big red light. And I call over the helper. What's going on here? Oh, there, you're only supposed to check one box. Let's get you a new ballot, fix that. So we get to self-correct, Charlie, in Orange County, self-adjudicate our own in-person ballots. Like, what a power we have.
And everyone else, it just gets thrown away.
Yeah. And so a lot of people, we take it for granted. And that's what I really try and promote in Orange County, why it's so important here. Use it before it gets taken away, right?
Exactly. I love the work that you're doing. I want to bring up your website here too and talk about this a little bit. There he is, Urson Russell for State Assembly. Home, what I stand for, good government, my commitments, AD 73 and more. What is AD 73?
That covers the communities of Costa Mesa, Irvine, and Tustin, and it's all within Orange County. There's a portion of Tustin called North Tustin that is not in my district. It's an unincorporated part of the county. But yeah, Irvine, Costa Mesa, Tustin, about 500,000 people. Each state assembly member has about 500,000 constituents and about 270,000 voters.
AD stands for Assembly District.
Mm-hmm.
There it is. There it is. If you're not in that area, may I make a suggestion to you? And there you go. You can join the campaign. I'm sure you could use volunteers. You have to walk precincts and so on. And I've done that with different candidates, and it's very rewarding work, actually. So I hope you try that. It's a great way to get involved. Just do it one time and you'll be like, this was awesome. And all you're doing is you walk neighborhoods. Hello, my name's Charlie, and I just want to let you know there's an election coming up June 2nd. I hope you're registered to vote. And I'm here representing Urson Russell, and a lot of people don't want to do that. One candidate I walked a precinct with, we just put door hangers on the door because he didn't want to disturb anybody in the neighborhood or make anybody feel uncomfortable that way, You can't put anything by law. You can't put anything in anybody's mailbox. But
don't do that.
But you can put door hangers on their door, and it really paid off. He had so many people responding to that, calling, wanting to know more, checking in with him. But the reason why I hope you go to ursonrussell.com, URSONRUSSELL, ursonrussell.com, is to help him financially. And here's why I say that. On the left, they have the little areas like John Garamendi in Northern California Bay Area. And she's, what's her face, Nancy Pelosi, and Senator Scott Wiener, one of the wickedest people to ever serve public office, seriously demonic. But he's got a shoe in. His community thinks and acts the way he does, and they love him, so they're going to vote for him automatically. And they don't give money for Scott Wiener's reelection campaign. They give money to people like John Garamendi outside of their area, people like whoever's running against or running for office again, because you're running against an incumbent, of course, who's a Democrat who's been in there for way too long. They'll send money to her from San Francisco. They'll not even in their area, not in their district, to prop up that campaign because they want to maintain that total dominance of the left wing over the state of California. It's their religion. They worship the government. So they will give $20, $50, $200 to somebody not even running in their area. They do that all the time. We, however, do not. And we'll give our money to the state party and think our job is done. I'll tell you, as a delegate of the California GOP, and I'm not speaking for Urson here, this is me, I won't give them a dime. That is a screwed up bunch of infiltrated. I am so disappointed in my own party in California right now. And I just got back from the convention. I'm so disappointed in it. I won't give them a dime. And I'm telling everybody, don't give a cent to the California State Republican Party. Give it maybe to your precinct, to your central committee, as they call them in your county. Absolutely help them out. Because they're helping candidates like Urson, or at least I hope they are. Is your central committee behind you?
Yes, they are.
Okay,
yeah.
Good. But the best thing you can do is find a candidate like Urson. That's why I want to bring these people to you. I want to introduce them to you and support them directly, because they can do so much more with that money, buying yard signs, bumper stickers, buying ads, social media ads. This is most of them like Urson. They're not politicians. What's your day job, by the way? Who are you? What are you?
Well, I've been a SoCal native my whole life, so I'm just a spoiled, rotten SoCal native. Been very, very blessed.
I noticed the surfboard behind you there. Yeah, most definitely.
There's very, very few places in the world there you can go surf in the morning, tee off by 9 a.m., golf 9 holes, and then still be up in the mountain for night skiing all in the same day. Right. And I've done 2 of the 3 in the same day, never all 3 in the same day, but California is one of the most amazing places on the planet. Our government sucks, right? So I've been in the operations side from a executive position most of my professional career, chief operations officer. I really liked the nuts and the bolts and the engineering and the manufacturing and shipping and receiving and all those types of things. And so I've launched a couple of with other people, launched some emerging technologies. And I think that's really what's conditioned me to break through barriers, because when you're launching new technologies or things that have never been to market, you have a lot of barriers to break through, right? From the early adoption of new products and just component structures that have never worked together or been in this particular environment or space in this. So I've always just really enjoyed business, manufacturing, production, solving problems that we don't focus on problems in business. If you focus on problems, you're out of business. In business, we focus on solutions, and here's this really upset customer and give them some free product. And now they're a committed, faithful customer for the rest of their life. Wow, I wasn't expecting that. So there's so many things that we can do. And I think if you look at government as a customer service model, which is really all it's supposed to be, right? Returning a critical infrastructure, return on investment for public safety and so forth, it really makes sense to me. And so when I look at like in Costa Mesa, I think our record here is 6 or 7 years from filing for a business permit before actually getting it. And I think in Costa Mesa, if we had good government, you walk in today and say, hey, I'd like to start a business, and you walk out with a business permit. And then the city says, hey, by the way, your type of business is going to have these 3 other county agencies or things that we're going to have to coordinate with. And we're going to help facilitate those. We're going to help set those meetings up, help represent you, make sure that we get this thing streamlined and moving through. Well, God, why would a city do that, Charlie? Because if the city was run as a customer service agency, there's nothing more exciting for the city of Costa Mesa than to bring in business tax revenue that lifts the burden of the tax revenue from the citizens themselves. It allows your citizens to get 6-figure jobs 10 minutes away instead of an hour and a half. So it's about really taking government and looking at it for what it's supposed to be. And so for this run for office for the rest of my life, this will be my work towards good government and it just kind of re-educating people on what it's even supposed to be. Because I'll be honest, what's government's role to you and I? Protect our inalienable rights. Now I've had 2 people, Charlie, that asked unalienable, does that have something to do with immigration? So we still have some work to do, sir, right? From just even understanding government's basic function. And I'll share this. When a dad goes and disciplines his son and spanks him on the bottom because he broke something, spoke bad to his mom, stole something, whatever, the son tells the teacher, and the next act of government, which the teacher's a part of, is for Child Protective Services to come to the home. That's not a rogue teacher. That's a full-blown failure of government. Because that teacher during orientation was never told, you belong to the parents now. Do you understand that? Do you belong to the parents now? Let's repeat it again. Don't forget steps 1 and 2. You belong to the parents. The first wavering of that in any degree will be a warning, and the second will be the ending of your position here at this establishment. And so we just don't look at it that way, and that's what I'm really setting out and why I want to run for office. It's just how we have to look at government if we want to fix things.
You're not a politician, and that makes you a winner as far as I'm concerned. I'm ready to fire them all. Everybody, Get out. We're starting over. I don't ask for any money from these candidates when I have them on. Although I do hope, Urson, you'll go to my website and get you one of these for your desk there.
I will.
You need one of these.
Absolutely.
It's never been a more important election in our lifetime. And that's such an overused phrase. But I truly believe in my heart that it actually applies this time. And here it is, just a primary and a midterm. And most Republicans don't even show up for that. It's in the teens. Only 40% of those who claim to be Christian in the state of California are even registered to vote. Gun owners, hunters suck. They're not registered to vote. They don't want to get the government. They want the government to have their information. Well, your firearms are registered, son. Believe me, they have your information. Yeah, that's lazy. That's an excuse. And then I've heard people in a moment of honesty and maybe after a couple of whiskeys actually say, yeah, I don't want to be bothered with jury duty. That's done through the DMV now. So you don't even have that excuse. Registertovote.ca.gov. Get registered to vote, please. And go to Urson Russell's website and find out more about him. And I sure appreciate for you for your time. Thanks, Urson, so much.
Absolutely. It was a real pleasure to be with you today, Charlie. And if I could just leave you with one thought and with your audience. So 95% of our population in California lives in the jurisdiction of an incorporated city. General Flynn said the fix is local, the impact is national. If we spend the next 2 election cycles taking every city council, every school board, every water district, sanitation district, we control government. And we can now say to a state assembly member that's not doing what they're supposed to, as the city, we're going to put out literature as the city to campaign against you in the next election. Get back in your lane. What are you doing supporting AB 1955, pressuring teachers to lie to parents? Get back in your lane. And so Huntington Beach has shown that from a city. Chino Valley, where Sonia is, has shown that from a school board. Shasta County has shown that from a county perspective. These are the lessons that we can build on if we have the right focus and the right strategy to put power back where it belongs. Because 120 people deciding for 40 million is nonsense. It's absolute nonsense, and why we have the results we do right now. So God bless you, brother. Appreciate everything that you're doing to help get the word out there.
Thanks,
June
brother.
2nd, ballots hit on Monday, May 4th. So we're coming.
We're coming. All right, my friend. That's awesome. Thank you so much for this time. Share this show. Please let others know. Check out this guy who's running for office. He sounds really cool. Charlie had him on his show. See what you think. Share these shows. That's a great way to get them out there. And thank you for what you do to help this show. I really appreciate you more than you know. Just watching. I really appreciate it. May God bless you and keep you. May God bless America. But most importantly, America, bless God.